The story of America is often told through images of wealth, skyscrapers, fast cars, and endless opportunity. It is painted as the land where dreams come true, where ambition can turn into success, and where people can rise above their circumstances. But behind this glittering surface, there is another America. An America filled with silent suffering, unseen struggles, and people who have been pushed to the margins of society. This is the America of homelessness and prostitution, a crisis that continues to grow, silently spreading across cities, towns, and neighborhoods. Today, we are going to dive deep into this reality. We will talk about what it looks like to live on the streets, what forces push people there, how prostitution and exploitation often walk hand in hand with poverty, and how society continues to look away from those who need the most help. Every night, in almost every major city in America, tens of thousands of people spread blankets on sidewalks, set up tents in public parks, or sleep in their cars. Some are families with children, some are veterans who once served their country, and many are people struggling with mental health, addiction, or job loss. For them, home is not a place of safety or comfort. Home is whatever spot they can claim for the night. Homelessness has reached such a scale that entire tent cities, clusters of makeshift shelters, have formed under bridges, on sidewalks, and even near schools. These camps are not temporary anymore. They have become a permanent feature of urban life. But homelessness is not just about lacking a roof. It is about living each day with constant uncertainty. Where will the next meal come from? Will there be enough warmth to survive the winter night? Will the police come to clear the camp, forcing everyone to move again? It is about the humiliation of being ignored by passers-by, the pain of hunger, and the exhaustion of carrying everything you own on your back. For children, it means falling behind in school and growing up with trauma. For women, it means facing the added risk of violence and exploitation. This is where prostitution enters the picture. In many cities, homeless women and even young girls are often forced into selling their bodies just to survive. Sometimes it is about getting enough money to eat. Sometimes it is about finding a place to stay for the night. For some, it becomes a cycle. They are trapped by traffickers, pimps, or abusers who prey on their desperation. Prostitution in this context is not about choice or freedom. It is about survival. And it is one of the darkest consequences of unchecked homelessness. The link between homelessness and prostitution is especially strong when it comes to runaway youth. Thousands of teenagers in America run away from abusive homes or foster care only to find themselves on the streets. With no money and nowhere to go, many are lured or forced into sex work. Studies have shown that nearly 1 in 3 homeless youth will be approached by someone offering money in exchange for sex within just 48 hours of being on the streets. This is how fast desperation can turn into exploitation. For men, too, homelessness can lead to involvement in sex work, sometimes for money, sometimes for drugs, sometimes for a place to sleep. But unlike women, their stories are often invisible, hidden from public attention. Prostitution, in this context, becomes a symptom of a deeper illness, the illness of poverty, neglect, and abandonment. It is important to understand that most of the people caught in this cycle never imagined their lives would end up this way. Many had jobs, families, and homes. Some lost everything after medical bills piled up or after being laid off from work. Others came back from military service carrying the weight of trauma and found themselves unable to adjust. Still others are victims of domestic violence who fled their homes but had nowhere else to go. Prostitution, then, is not a moral failure. It is a desperate attempt to survive in a world that has turned its back on them. Walking through cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, or Seattle, you will see the contrast everywhere. On one side, billion-dollar tech companies, luxury apartments, and high-end shopping centers. On the other, sidewalks filled with tents, people digging through trash cans, and women standing on street corners hoping to make just enough to get through the night. The contrast is jarring, and yet most people walk past it without a second thought. But what happens when a society ignores its most vulnerable? The crisis grows. The streets become unsafe, not just for those who live there, but for everyone. Drug use spreads openly, crime increases, and public health risks multiply. Yet the people suffering the most are those who are trapped in homelessness and prostitution, people who face constant danger, violence, and abuse. For women in prostitution, the dangers are endless. They risk being assaulted, robbed, or killed by clients. They risk being arrested by police and treated as criminals instead of victims. They risk diseases, addiction, and mental breakdowns. And when society labels them as immoral or disposable, they are further pushed into the shadows. For homeless men and women alike, prostitution often becomes the last resort. It is not glamorous, it is not empowering, and it is not a career choice. It is survival at its rawest. And when we judge or dismiss these individuals, we ignore the very real suffering that forces them into this life in the first place. The question we must ask is, how did we get here? America is one of the richest countries in the world. It has more billionaires than any other nation, massive corporations, and endless wealth. And yet, on the same streets where million-dollar cars are parked, people are sleeping on the pavement. Housing costs are skyrocketing, wages remain stagnant, and affordable housing is scarce. Mental health services are underfunded, shelters are overcrowded, and rehabilitation programs are limited. When these safety nets fail, people fall into homelessness, and many never find a way back out. Prostitution in this landscape becomes not just an individual problem, but a societal one. It reflects the way we fail to provide for the most basic human needs: shelter, safety, and dignity. Instead of addressing the root causes, many cities respond by criminalizing the people who are suffering. Homeless encampments are cleared, women in prostitution are arrested, and yet the cycle continues because the underlying issues remain unsolved. What makes this crisis even more tragic is the silence around it. Talking about homelessness is uncomfortable. Talking about prostitution is taboo. Together they form an issue most people would rather not acknowledge. But ignoring it does not make it go away. These are real human beings with real stories, hopes, and dreams, and they deserve to be seen and heard. So, what is the way forward? The solutions are not simple, but they are possible. It starts with affordable housing programs that ensure people do not end up on the streets in the first place. It requires mental health and addiction treatment that is accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy. It means creating jobs that pay living wages and offering support for those escaping domestic violence. And for those already trapped in prostitution, it means offering exit programs, safe shelters, and protection from abuse. But more than policies, it requires a shift in mindset. It requires society to stop seeing homeless people as invisible and to stop judging those caught in prostitution. It requires compassion, empathy, and the recognition that anyone can fall on hard times. No one chooses to live on the streets. No one dreams of selling their body to survive. These are outcomes of desperation, not decisions made with freedom. At the end of the day, homelessness and prostitution are not separate crises. They are deeply connected, each feeding into the other, both rooted in poverty, inequality, and neglect. To solve one, we must address the other. And until we do, the tents will keep multiplying, the streets will keep filling, and the silence will keep growing louder. This is the America most people do not want to see, but it is real. And the question we must all ask ourselves is this: will we keep walking past it, or will we finally choose to face it?